Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I am talking about the 90s craft movie and my understanding of the element of air. Those two things might not seem related at all, but they are for me and I would love to explain it to you. I hope you find this interesting. It's really about how I used to understand the element of air and now as a professional tarot reader, how I understand it now and how I work with it now. So I'm not used to talking about movies on my channel, the 90s cult movie at that, but this one holds a special place in my heart. I remember it held so much respect for the craft itself, meaning witchcraft. As you probably know, a new craft movie came out, I don't know, a year or two ago, I'm not sure. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've seen in videos about that standalone film that is a continuation of the original story, that's how they market it, there is less subtext and more explaining the plot. But you know, it is about something that they call the craft, so they mean witchcraft. It's about something that is the occult, you know, mysteries really. And I kind of feel like the subtext that 90s movie had, and then the difference now looking at the new movie, if I, you know, of course I'm not speaking from my own experience, but I kind of feel like maybe there's something there. Without having the comparison between the two, I think the 90s movie definitely had that respect towards it, right? So I couldn't help but include the less subtext. I am not a movie critic, you might already hear that, but I have seen the original 1996, The Craft, enough times to talk to you about it and related to my understanding of the suits in the tarot, with one element in particular, the element of air, and how that is changing, how that changed for me the meaning of the element of air over time. So the first time I heard about the original movie, it was my best friend at the time who talked to me about it. We were biking to school together, and it had aired on TV the night before and I had missed it, which was really sad because it sounded like something I was really into. It took me a long time, I don't know, months for sure, but maybe even years, I don't remember, to actually get a hold of the movie or to actually see it again on TV. I don't know, to get a chance to see it myself, basically. And you know, this was a time before Google search was obvious, or before, you know, using the internet at all. It just wasn't a given at the time, you know, so I wasn't buying anything online. I'm talking about first grade of high school at this point, I believe. Now, anyway, my friend and I, we experimented with witchcraft together. You know, at that time, witchcraft and Wicca was still very much, those terms, they were interchanged in a lot of books, but I know that I got my first pure witchcraft book, I could say, from her. We did a book trade, I believe, and I gave her a book that I had read. She gave me that book that she had read. And I don't know, I think after that, it just kind of stopped, but I still have that book and it turns out to be a pretty cool one. I still reference it actually. So that's funny, but we experimented with witchcraft together in primary school already and in our first year of high school, as I said, before I left to pursue my career in dancing. So either way, that movie was a pretty big deal. And if I remember the order of occurrences accurately, from then on, you know, after we had talked about that movie, after she had, you know, informed me about it, the typical 90s sleepover parties didn't only mean we were scaring each other with scary ghost stories, but we were also doing, you know, we would never miss an opportunity from that point on to actually play light as a feather, stiff as a board. That became a staple. Good times. By the way, whenever we did a sleepover in my home, I just wanted to include this because it's fun. It's fun for you to know. The sleepovers, when we did it at my home, we would do it in the attic. And that's where all the spooky, magical witch type things came about. And that's why my Patreon isn't only built around the idea of a rock show, but also it's my secret attic room, the same that I had as a kid, where, you know, we make strange things happen, strange but wondrous things. So first, let's take a moment to appreciate this movie. I know I must not be alone in this community who loves this movie. And, you know, I think the cast is great. I love the simplicity, but therefore also the strength of the storyline. Faruta Belk, oh, you know, iconic. She is absolutely amazing in the part of Nancy. And she's definitely into occult in real life also, which is really cool to know. And I don't know about the other actresses that played who played Bonnie and Sarah, but I know they are Neve Campbell and Robin Tunney. And I don't know about them in real life, but I know that Rachel True, who played Rochelle, is now a professional tarot reader, and she came out really recently ago with her own tarot deck. And I saw a review by Sparkle Divine Tarot, which I really loved, and I'm going to link that below so you can check that out, because that just connection is amazing. And maybe Faruta Belk also has more than just she's into occult, of a connection to, you know, actual something along the lines of magical or spiritual work at least. But yeah, if you know about that, please let me know, because yeah. Anyway, in case you didn't know, because it's not that obvious actually in the original 90s movie, talking about subtext, when you're not looking for that type of witchcraft information, that actually each girl, each one of those 4 girls, is an element to make a circle to call the corners. Now, they call, you know, Sarah, who they call Sarah R4th, as in to make a circle, so that's really a given, but each girl is an element. So Nancy Downs, by the way, that's the best name ever, isn't it? If I had a band, I would probably call it Nancy Downs, or something along the lines of Nancy is sorry, which is something that Rochelle says to to what's her face, Sarah, at some point. And yeah, I love that. Nancy Downs is the element of fire. How do I know that? Well, first of all, because I watched the director's cut, but because it wasn't obvious at all. But anyway, the director's cut, the guy told us there was a scene where Sarah, the newcomer, tells her new friends something really personal, something that really isn't fun. But Nancy just looks at her and then just goes, punk rock. And then they just go into the store. So it's kind of like this weird, well, young energy, I guess, moment. But when Nancy says that, when Nancy delivers those lines, punk rock, she's standing in front of a wall. That wall has graffiti on it, and behind her there is a flame. And that's how we know that that is her element, the element of fire. It's very subtle, but that's the explanation that the director gave us. So I tend to believe that, and I just want to, you know, tell you that. Then Rochelle is a swimmer, so that makes her water, I guess. And then we have Bonnie. She is a dreamer, kind of shy. I guess that makes her element of air. And then Sarah completes the circle as earth, being the most down-to-earth character that also reflects in her clothing. Now also, when they go to the beach to do the big ritual invoking Manon, which is their deity kind of thing, and in my opinion is a missed opportunity to not refer to it as he, but you know, each girl holds an animal. So if I remember correctly, because actually I did, you know, write down the notes for this video, but it is all from memory. Nancy holds a snake. Then we have Rochelle holding a fish. Bonnie holds a butterfly, and Sarah has a bird. Now, I don't remember what type of bird, but I know that it was something fiery because, fun fact, but this was also all in the director's cut, you know, where they gave a commentary about the making of different scenes. They mixed up Nancy's and Sarah's animals. Snakes are creepy kind of thing that movie was going with, made it so that they gave Nancy the snake, Nancy who has element of fire, even though snakes in this case, yes, they can be associated with fire, but in this case, they are associated with the element of earth. So that particular bird that Sarah was holding was meant to represent fire, which is Nancy's element. Nancy should have been holding the firebird, and Sarah should have been holding the snake, which represents earth. But, you know, perhaps I also think perhaps it was deliberate because Sarah has these scary visions of maggots and spiders and snakes and all that stuff. It could have been to not confuse the audience. That's what I'm thinking now, you know, to not have Sarah all of a sudden holding a snake, even though she's clearly, you know, has this trauma with them, or there are these scary visions that she's having. But I'm thinking that, of course, they couldn't have anticipated this, but now that it's such a cult movie and an important one, and that this movie is such a staple for a lot of people, you know, walking this type of path, I do see it as a little mistake, because now we know that snakes are also earth and all that stuff, you know, but anyway, it doesn't really matter, but I mostly related to Bonnie, I remember. She was more shy, she was more, you know, she kept to herself, she was timid, but also more kind, at least in the beginning, I feel. And then finding out Bonnie was air, it made perfect sense to me, because out of all the elements, I think, at least at the time, I would be air. Also, I am an air sign, I am a Libra, very much a Libra, and you know, sure that I'm air, but by now I think I clearly recognize different parts of myself in every suit, of course, because that is what it means to read and understand the tarot, right? But what air used to mean to me is a completely different thing compared to how I read the suit of swords in the tarot now, meaning how I understand the element of air now. Becoming a tarot reader has changed that. And I don't know, I kind of feel, I kind of felt a little bit conflicted about it when I found out this is so different than what I was expecting, you know. I used to associate air with, as I said, being dreamy. Have I said that already? I don't know, but I associate the element of air as being dreamy, you know, having the head in the clouds, having a vivid imagination, maybe having daydreams for sure. That's all me as a kid for sure, and even still now. But now, you know, knowing the tarot suit of swords, which I associate with the element of air, it's all about clear-cut decision-making, communication. So that means that it's an outgoing, outwards, active element. Truth, the realm of the mind, sure, but in an analytical way. And it sounds like almost the opposite, you know? So what happened to that dreamy element? Well, there still are dreamy cards in the tarot. You know, I'm thinking pretty much every 7 in the minor arcana, because that element, that holds an element of anticipation, I guess. You could think, you know, it's kind of like a push and pull, the 7, because it's a weird, uncomfortable in between kind of thing. Which way is it going to go? Is it going to be strong? Is it going to be weak? And why? You know, so I feel a little bit of that anticipation and push and pull kind of thing in there. Then of course we have the obvious major arcana, the star, which is we can associate with wishes. So yeah, dreams. Why not? And then there's also the moon, which is very mysterious and also has to do with dreams, but on another level. And then I thought also maybe even the 2s, because those often represent a certain type of preparation. So it's, you know, thinking about the goal right before. So it also holds a kind of like a dreaminess there, right? But still, it's not like there's an entire suit, you know, or kind of like a quarter of a whole of the 4 corners that's about having a vivid imagination. And I'm thinking, where do I find this quality nowadays? Because I used to find it in the element of air, and now knowing the tarot, I don't feel like I can really incorporate that in the reading. Now, of course, I see in magical practice, in the spiritual practice, intention work and all that stuff, it's mostly found within the realm of the astral. you know, which is a huge part of walking a spiritual, magical path. It's all about visualizing and path working and all that stuff. But relating it strictly to tarot, it's just in the act of reading the tarot. So hear me out. No matter how scenic your deck is, I talked about this passionately in my reading Pips, Marseille, tips for Pips, Marseille video, the story forms in your head either way, whether you're using Marseille, whether it's Thoth, whether it's Rider-Waite-Smith, whether it's whatever deck. No matter how scenic your deck is, the story forms in your head. So it must require, you know, for that to happen, doing tarot, reading tarot, it must require a significant amount of imagination. Seeing the story unfold in front of you, right? It's kind of like it forms in your head, it becomes a vision in front of your eyes, you have to communicate it to the other person, or at least in some type of words, I guess, even if it's just for yourself. Now, of course, all the other elements I could see also in the act of reading tarot, they're also there. You know, intuition and feeling is also part of it. So that's water right there. That's water. And I'm sure you can find earth and fire and all that stuff in there as well. But still, I think the astral and the communication, it kind of like comes together here. And I'm just happy that I found you know, how I understood the element of air as a child or as a teenager in the tarot, or at least in the act of reading the tarot itself. It feels kind of good, you know? So, and I'm using a movie that impacted me so much as an example, which was just a bonus, I guess. I just wanted to talk about it, and yeah, that's how it all came together. So I think that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this whole weird ramble, really weird for my channel, but let me know what you think. And please let me know what you think of all of it, of all of the other points. You know, have you seen the Craft movie? Have you seen the 96 one? Have you seen the new one? How good is it in comparison to the first one? Do you recognize my idea in the element of air in the way that I've described it? I would love to know, so please leave a comment below. And thank you so much for making it this far. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you all in the next one. Also, the soundtrack of The Craft, the original one at least I know, is on Spotify. Someone made a playlist, and I'm very thankful because I've been listening to it. It's kind of good, you know. It was the grunge era, so you know, apart from hearing every male singer going like "hurry, yeah," it's actually pretty fun. So that's also a tip for you.